Well, thank you, Kevin. I always enjoy those car parades. It really does give a good sense of what is getting ready to cross the auction block. But I am glad that you guys are sticking around for our next Mecum Midway Stage conversation. And I'm being joined here by Adam Faniff and Ben Mayo of Countryside Customs. Guys, we were talking off stage a little bit about your travels, about coming down from the Northeast and about the change in temperature. How's it been so far under the Florida sun?
At this point, that working? Yeah. At this point, I believe it's probably 80 degrees warmer than home. We're happy to be here. I'm Adam, by the way. I'd like to thank Mecum for all their hospitality in really showing us, this is our first time doing this with a vehicle of this level. And I'd just like to thank you guys for kind of walking us through this program. It's been a great experience, and hopefully tomorrow we get to do something really special with this truck.
What about you? What are your thoughts of coming down from Boston, escaping the cold, and finally getting some nice warm sunshine?
Yeah, it's good. No, I'm glad to not be wearing like 5 layers. So,
me too. So, as much as we could sit here and talk about the weather, guys, we've got some serious hardware to discuss. Adam, you're the owner, and you're the builder of this incredible truck behind us. And it's got a really fascinating story behind it about long-term ownership. Start to fill in some holes about how did we get to where we're at today with the condition of the vehicle?
Sure. Not to be too tongue-in-cheek, but filling in holes is what we had to do. This was my grandfather's truck. It's 1964 C10. He purchased it brand new in 64 from Gannon Motors in Westboro, Massachusetts. From there, he drove it about 15, 20 years, gave it to my father, my other uncles, then my older cousins got it. And then in 2000, I had a 92 454 SS, which was a pickup truck I was driving in high school. That vehicle was stolen, and I had to fill the gap, so decided that I was going to take a swing at restoring this particular vehicle. My cousin sold it to me. He may regret that after tomorrow. And then I started building that vehicle in 2001, got married, started a family, built a company, put it in a shed for 25 years. And then, or 20 years, and then took it out in 2020, started tinkering with it with my sons to try and give them the bug. Got it all together, and then realized I was unqualified to paint a vehicle, like a lot of people who are passionate about vehicles are, and that's when we engaged Countryside Customs.
So what are some of the earliest memories you have of your grandfather with the truck?
So my grandfather passed prior to me really being familiar with the vehicle, but I do remember that my cousin drove that vehicle as a stepside truck to high school, and he was the guy with the cool truck in 1990 driving a 64 C10 with a stepside. My grandfather was an engineer for General Electric rather, and the rocker panels were full of original Bondo, which was actually concrete and wire lath, because they were gone. So I remember when we took the vehicle apart, it was rough. I think you might have a few in there. We'll get to them, but
yeah, we sure do. We do. Oh, so let's see. So is that
so coming out of the shed? That's 20 years after we started it the first time. So we put it in the shed. That's my father. So he had driven the vehicle, and I'm next to him there. That's when I took a swing at restoring something that we were just going to drive. That's a all cast iron 3D 3-stroker built by a local shop. At the time, we had some LMC drop spindles and a 4-inch drop leaf spring rear end in it. But other than that, it was close enough to being left in the shed for another 20 years.
Wow. So when the truck made its way to Countryside Customs, what went through your mind when you saw what was before you and kind of where Adam and the family wanted to go with it?
well, we didn't know. So Adam came in. He wanted to do like a paint job, and I've been like itching to do a show truck, and I hit it off with Adam really well. So I was talking to my wife one night, and she said, "Why don't you call Adam back and just see if he'll let you keep going and do more?" So I talked to Adam, and it did not take much convincing. He was ready to go. So I said, I have a few ideas about this, and we can clean up this and change this, and they were basically all on his wish list of what he would do if he was going to do a show truck anyways. So then we just kind of dug into it and started a snowball that neither one of us knew where it was going to end.
I thought you were going to say kept rolling.
It did keep rolling, yeah.
Well, that's very appropriate for that area having snow currently, it sounds like. But have you ever, fill us in a little bit about Countryside. How did you get started? Where did you learn your technical experience, and what kind of projects had you done to date?
So my wife and I started in 2011, just doing like collision work, salvage cars, but we named it Countryside Customs because I knew where I wanted to go. So even though we were working on stuff that we, a fender or a bumper, we knew where we wanted to land. And along the way, we started doing more and more paint jobs and paint work for other shops. We got a good reputation as doing a good paint and body, but Adam was really the first one that said, take it, design it, think of everything you'd like to change, and let's talk about it. And so that was really the first one that was the expression of what was in my head down on metal and painted out the door. So.
And so you mentioned that you and your wife started the shop. Do you have additional team members? Or is
We
this
do.
Still the
Yep.
joke?
Yep. There's a few guys that work at the shop now. We had a bigger team when we were doing Adams, and then one guy moved back to California, another guy moved to Arizona. So we've lost a few good team members, but we've still got a good team. So yeah, I would not be able to do this all by myself. It'd be a 10-year project.
That one's not Ben's shop. That's my shop. That's actually my father's shop. That was out of the shed, second swing at the plate when we
Okay.
started assembling all the rest of the pieces. Clearly, you could tell I did it because the door gaps are horrible, the fenders don't line up right, and it's still sitting too high.
I think we can give you a participation trophy for sure. I think that's appropriate.
Everybody gets one of those now. Yeah.
So the project has come along quite a bit, guys. So let's see. So I'm assuming that this is in Countryside Customs.
Yep.
And what are we looking at here?
So one of the big changes that we did, the first thing that stuck out was the on the stock bodies, the bed sits in too far to the cab. There's always this weird, I think we widened the bed about 1.5 inches. And then the B pillars have this baseball shape looking to them, which creates a bad transition between the cab and the bed. So what we did was we made a buck. Jeff Ryder, one of the guys, he actually moved back to California. We made a buck, and it matched the door shape and sweep and the bed shape and sweep. And that's what we cut the entire B pillar out to make that flow with the rest of the truck. But then that created that snowball of now the bed has to be widened to create the panel to match. But that was one of the major changes, and that's shown on this corner here. A few other changes that we did design-wise where the roof was actually cut off and stretched so that we could eliminate the rain gutters but leave that profiled edge so it still retained the look of a rain gutter. As you see a lot of trucks where they'll cut the roof and shave the drip rails, but it's just this weird straight line and it doesn't look right. You can tell you were there. So we wanted to leave a reveal around the border of the roof and make it look like it still had a rain gutter, which was kind of funny because when we were done, Jeff and I stood back and we're looking at it and we're like, for 200 hours worth of, banging on this roof and stretching this and making a panel here to make it look the exact same, it looked the same in a photo. So you couldn't even tell you did any work there. But it is a nice detail that people notice and then,
Really,
they
dude?
appreciate it,
So clearly, the goal was to go to the next level. Adam, was there ever a point in time when you considered going back to showroom correct, or was it always about let's make this thing the wildest it can be?
So to answer that question, that started with the first vehicle I ever helped my father restore, which was a 1936 Peter Persh fire engine. And when he pulled the straight Waukesha engine out of that motor and put a small block Chevy and a 4-speed in it so we could drive it and enjoy it, and he got ridiculed for that a lot. I mean, we're talking 40 years ago that this happened. I knew that these vehicles, unless they are one-off, truly pristine stuff that you see in some of these buildings out here, they need to be driven. And the whole resto mod, drivability, that's a real thing. I think that bringing it back to original is never gonna happen to this particular vehicle. There's a lot of them out there. Anyone who's driven a 63 through 66 C10 with a 235 straight 6 and 3 on the tree, or a 4-speed with a low gear in it, they're fun on a farm, but you can't drive them down the highway. And that, we built this to drive, but we also built it to show, so it's a piece of art.
Speaking of driving, we got a good look here, guys, about what's underneath. What did you choose for powertrain, and how was it set up?
So, CPP, big brake system, so it's disc front and rear, tubular upper and lower, tubular rear. We kept the GM 12 bolt that came in the truck, had an Eaton True Track put in it. It's good for about 1,000 horsepower. Tremec TKX 5-speed, and then we bought at the time, because of COVID, it was hard finding engine builders and everything else, so we bought a crate GM 383 stroker motor, and then one of our team members, Kevin Labani, went in, pulled the cam out of it, put in AFR heads, got a proper Holley projection on it, MSD ignition, and everything to keep it just that whole pushrod V8, good compression, good sound. It fits the attitude of the vehicle. We could have done an LS, we could have made 1,000 horsepower, it could have been cheap and easy, but we really feel that the identity of this particular vehicle had to be a pushrod V8, and in driving around the country and showing it, we get a lot of comments on that. We feel as though that vintage of restoration's coming back, and you can still get an oil filter for 16 bucks at Napa.
As the project escalated, I'm assuming that was was there continual challenges along the way that sharpened you, frustrated you, excited you?
Hide the actual value from your spouse so you can stay married. One, that was my biggest one.
All of it, all of the above. I mean, Adam and I didn't know each other from Adam, and no pun intended.
He's Adam.
No pun intended. And I think that building a truck like this, and then having the hard conversations could have broken up a 30-year friendship, and all it did for us was bring us closer. Because there was a lot of things where, like that roof, where Adam, I think we should do this, and I think we could do it in a few days. You come out 100 and something hours later, it's, Adam, I'm really sorry, but it was this much more. So there was a lot. There was the team had a lot of friction at some points, because we were trying to get it done, we were trying to hit it for the Triple Crown of Rotting, and the days were just getting closer and closer, and yeah, we learned a lot. I got hardened quite a bit, so.
Well, the results speak for themselves, guys, as we transition to how the truck is presented today. We've got a great interior shot. What are we looking at here?
So that's actually the factory bench seat frame. They cleaned it up, changed the stance on it a little bit, so it's just a little lower. And then Atomic Upholstery, custom stitched that. Once again, we gave the artist the ability to run with their idea, which I have certainly learned in this restoration project. If someone is talented at what they do, you stay away and let them do it, because art is something that can't be interrupted by opinion. It has to be done by the people doing it. That's something that I found at Countryside Customs and all the people that have been engaged in this process. But you're seeing classic instruments gauges. We wanted to keep the interior of the vehicle looking close to stock. To your previous question about keeping it original, we got a lot of comments on the interior of this vehicle because it looks like the one you used to drive, but it functions like the one you want to drive. That's kind of what we're going for.
And that's one of the things, like interrupting on the interior. So on the theme of the truck, everything outside was blue with black accents, and then on the inside we went black with aluminum accents, and then the wheels are black with aluminum. So everything kind of ties into each other. We wanted to keep it a steel dash, but we still, we gapped the glove box door. We were filing the edges until that thing fit right, and we bodyworked everything like it was the outside of the truck. We wanted it understated, but still very nicely detailed.
Speaking of the exterior color here, I guess we can see it here, but how was blue decided?
My wife picked it out, and that was the end of it.
That was it.
All right. It was really. She knew she wanted a blue. When the first time we did it, it was a Centauri clear coat, metallic blue flake paint, and that was something I kind of always liked. But when we got the permission slip to build the truck, there was very few caveats, and one of them was it's going to be blue. He sent us a couple color codes. We looked them up. That's what we're doing.
I think it's safe to say maybe she took inspiration from Henry Ford about, you can have the Model T in any color as long as it's black. Adam, you can have your custom truck in any color as long as it's blue.
Yep. And still stay married.
Guys, we've got a great shot of the bed here. It's evident you've really kept, like you said, with that black and blue color motif. Was it challenging to assemble all the details here? Did it come together pretty easily?
No, it kind of came together, and we didn't go off of rendering or anything. We let the truck kind of tell us which way to go. We did a couple test samples with some different stains. The black played nice. The finish was, the sheen of it was nice, and then we could tie it all in again with the aluminum strips. So, it told us what to do most of the time.
And so here we've got a great shot of the powertrain, and remind me what's underneath the hood of the truck.
So GM crate, 383 stroker, AFR heads, Holley projection, MSD coilless ignition. Kevin Labonte picked out the cam that he felt was appropriate for the lift and duration to get what we could get out of that, still keep it drivable. It hadn't dynoed, but with the technology of the computer and knowing what part assemblies make what kind of power, that's a fairly stout 500 horsepower small block Chevy, which drives real nice up against that trimming. Kept the engine compartment very clean and smooth. Benzene bodywork, absolutely everything in there. That's just keep it clean and easy.
Talk a little bit about the build. How many hours would you say went into it? Was this a weekly project that you and your team were committing to?
Yeah, so there's thousands upon thousands, and it doesn't always look it because it is quiet and subtle, but there's 3,000 plus hours into the truck easily, and it was. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, what Ben's referring to, not to cut him off, but I'm probably going to get to the point he's going to make anyway, because now that we've been stuck together for 5,000 hours. At the C10 Nationals or Dover Good Guys or Chicago World of Wheels or any of the other places it went, if you walk by the truck, it stops you for a second, you know something's there, but you don't necessarily notice it. And this picture's a great example of it. The roof is still showing the drip edge, but it's not there. The B pillars are square, so you can't see into the bed from the front, and you can't see into the back of the body from the back. The drip edges underneath, all those GMs, simple little drip edge from the B pillar to the front of the fender. There's a pinch weld that just lays down underneath there. Shaving that stuff off the rocker panels, Frenching in all the tail lights, widening the bed, flush mounted rear glass, no side mirrors or no side vent windows, single one-piece front cowl, bumpers pushed in 6 inches. There's a lot of just very subtle things that if you don't look at this truck, you're gonna walk by it for the wrong reason.
That was one of the things. When we brought it to the C10 Nationals, my father and I went down to Tennessee and we were showing it, and the judges were walking around and they kept walking right by us. And so I got frustrated enough that I was like, I have to say something. So I grabbed one judge and I was like, can I show you, can I just show you around the truck real quick? And he said, I've got, 2,000 or 3,000 trucks to look at. You have a minute. So I walked him around, I showed him everything really quick. He made like 2 little notes on his clipboard, got in his golf cart and drove off, and I looked at my father and I was like, I don't know, this could have been a wasted trip. And 3 hours later, he came back with every judge there, and he said, tell them everything you told me. So I walked them around the truck, and we ended up winning the Design of Excellence because of it. Because they said that we're here to look at C10s, and we didn't notice what you changed on it. So that was kind of the testament to the design language that we went with.
Yeah, that's a very high mark of praise, that your work is so subtle that even, notable experts and people that see these trucks all the time, their eye didn't catch it. I would take that as high praise. I'm curious, guys, does the truck project have a name? Did a name surface along the way?
So it's actually registered in the state of Massachusetts with the license plate, the 64. So we're just calling it the 64.
My wife would call it the headache.
Yeah. Mine would probably call it that as well. It was just, I always called it Granddad's truck. So my cousins see it shows, they call it Granddad's truck. My father still calls it Dad's truck. In the house, it was always, are you ever going to restore Granddad's truck? but now we're just calling it the 64.
And you know, you guys talked about what a whirlwind year it's been since the truck has been completed. I think we were talking backstage. You said the truck was completed last year, calendar year 24, and it's kind of been on the road since. You mentioned the C10 Nationals. Where was this photo taken, and what other notable events has it been displayed at?
That was the Chicago World of Wheels, and we got top 20 there. My father and I were at that one as well. Actually, everybody went in that one. The whole team was there for that, and they all wore my face on their shirts just to try to get my face as red as possible.
Yeah, you sent me, as part of our dialogue for the conversation, I was very confused by that photo when you sent me all of the build photos, and I was like, man, those guys have terrible fashion choice.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it, but you know, I assume there was a story behind it.
There is, yeah. It's just picking on me, I think.
Yeah.
But we ended up winning the Legacy Award, which was really special to me, from Rad Rides by Troy, Jack Trepanier's Legacy Award, and that was probably the highlight of my career, was being there for that. But
That's awesome. So, guys, as we wrap up our conversation, so the truck we're talking about, 1964 Chevrolet C10 Custom, lot number S346. Where's that on display here at the fairgrounds? Is that here in the glass house, or next one over? So those who are listening, be sure to check it out. And I'm curious, guys, thoughts as we gear up for the sale tomorrow of it crossing the block. What's going through your minds?
The entire time the truck has told us what it's going to teach us. If we had a bad idea, it reminded us that a 2-hour project is 200 hours. If we decided we were going to drive it into a trailer instead of tow it into a trailer, I'd put a scratch in it. So don't do that. So if this vehicle goes for what it needs to go for tomorrow, it'll open another page, create another build, and it'll become someone's, part of someone's collection who knows how to enjoy and care for a vehicle like this. If it doesn't sell, it comes home, and we're gonna bring it around everywhere and just keep filling up trophy cases.
With such a special connection with your family to the vehicle, what do you think your grandfather would have to say if he was here to see the truck with all these custom modifications and probably something that he bought to use hard and as a workhorse? What would he be thinking about how the old 64 turned out?
I think he'd be quite pleased with it, being an engineer, lifelong engineer with many patents underneath his belt. So the idea of modifying and changing things run in the blood. The fact that it's in this condition and it will be cared for and live on instead of rot in the barn where we took it from, all of it's just good. So I think it's just got a real positive feel to it.
Have we seen the last of Countryside Customs, or what's next? Can you give us a tease? So this was a challenge for you. I think looking back now, you mentioned that I'm sure along the way it was a headache, but now that it's completed, it's stunning. You're winning awards. I think you've got some forward momentum. What's next for Countryside Customs?
So we're building a 69 Mustang. We've built it from scratch, actually. We bought all the panels from Dynacorn. We have an Art Morrison Max G chassis, and we built the thing right in a jig. So started with nothing. I think the only original parts on there were the headlight extensions and the quarter panel extensions. We're hoping to have that one done again for Triple Crown this year. And then after that, we're actually working on a 68 Cougar that we'd like to compete at the Salonica Award with. It's on an Art Morrison. We worked with Eric Brockmeyer to design it. It's got like a John Causey Boss 9 in it. That one should be pretty over the top. So I hope this is not the end of Countryside Customs.
I don't think so. My hat's off to you guys. I think what strikes me about the build is the friendship that's developed. Really excited to see where you guys go next. Best of luck with the sale tomorrow, and I'm sure Granddad is pretty excited to see his old truck now be an ultimate hot hauler. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of the stage conversation, and enjoy the rest of your day here at Mecum Kissimmee.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.